We've got shocking news on today's show, or at least a shocking analysis from ESPN, because they just dropped their 53-man roster projection for every team in the NFL, and there were 5 surprise cut candidates, really 3 big ones, and then a couple others where it's like, wow, they were fringe guys, but I thought they'd make the squad. And we're going to go through all of that today. Chargers Now is presented by Prize Picks. I'm your host, Will Ortner. And I think we got to ask ourselves as we go through my breakdown and reaction to this video, did ESPN nail this projection? Or did ESPN just find a couple of big names, take them out and say, here it is, and that was just their best way of getting some headline-grabbing attention? Something that we never, ever do here at Chargers Now. We would never do that to you, I promise. Be the general manager who will be a surprise cut candidate for the Chargers. Who's a player on the team right now that 90%, 95%, 98% of your Chargers fans, whether they're your brothers, your sisters, your friends, your family, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandparents, crazy friend Steve, who do you think is going to get cut that those people think is going to be on the final roster? Let us know down below in the comment section. First player that surprised me a little bit that ESPN threw on this cut candidate list was one DJ Uiagalelei. Right now, he is the 3rd quarterback for the Los Angeles Chargers. But as we know, especially if you're a real one of Chargers Now, that there is a competition going into this camp for that backup quarterback spot. Now, DJU, ESPN, they don't think he's going to be a guy who makes this team, and they have him being that 3rd quarterback and being left off the roster. They have Trey Lance actually being the number 1 QB coming in and replacing DJU. Now, we had gone through some conversations and we had talked about what would be a potential lineup for this Chargers team, especially at that quarterback position. And I thought that DJU had put himself into a spot where we might be talking about him making this team either as QB3 or beating out Trey Lance as QB2. Now, I would say that this surprised me a little bit. Honestly, it surprised me a lot of bit. Because when you look and think about where this Chargers quarterback room is at, Trey Lance was someone who obviously re-signs during the NFL offseason. He had put himself into a position where, frankly, I thought that he didn't excel. He wasn't bad during the offseason, but I wouldn't sit here and say that he was the best. When you look at DJU and some of the rumors that were coming out during minicamp and OTAs, it sounded like he was having a really good session, multiple sessions. He had multiple really good weeks. I just didn't expect the Los Angeles Chargers to look at a guy like DJU and say, hey, we're going to move on from this guy or move on from him this easily. So ESPN caught me a little bit off guard with that decision that they expect the Chargers to end up making. Next, let's look at who that number 2 guy is. And honestly, I don't know how you leave Dame Tucker off of this Chargers roster going in to this season. In my personal opinion, I think that he has gone in and shown out, whether it's OTAs, minicamp. This guy has shown that he belongs in the National Football League as an edge rusher. And I don't think that he's the type of player that you can stash for a year on your practice squad. Now, he joins new defensive coordinator Chris O'Leary from Western Michigan. He had 14.5 sacks in college football, which that's insane. I understand that the teams he's playing against is the MAC. Still, I love what this team is doing. And I think that he is going to be a player that we do not discuss enough. He is so talented. It just doesn't make sense to me why the Chargers would move on from him, especially with how young he is. I know he's not the youngest rookie of all time coming into a year, but I'd also let you know that he's still younger than the options that they ended up having the Chargers keep. We're going to go through who those options were in just a moment. But before we do anything else, I need to let you know that today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app and is the best place to win cash while watching sports. With the football season right around the corner, there's no better time to cash in with our friends at Prize Picks. And I'll tell you this, the app is really easy to use. For player picks, just pick more or less on a few players' stats and lock in your lineup. That's it. PrizePicks is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. One thing I love is the new social feeds feature where you can share PrizePicks with your friends and copy lineups with a single click. You can actually follow me on the app at BigWill7774 to see all of my lineups. Just like this one that I have for the football action going on later on this year. Quentin Johnston, more on his receiving TDs. Kenyon Sadiq, more on his receiving TDs. Jackson Smith and Jigba, more on his receiving TDs. New user offer. Best of all, play your first $5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. Just use code HMA when you sign up. That's right. PrizePicks just switched up their offer, so there's no better time to join. Lock in and win that first lineup. That's code HMA at sign up to get $150 in bonus lineups if you win your first $5 plus lineup. So the players that ESPN has the Chargers keeping on that linebacker depth chart is, of course, Tuli, Mack, Mesidor, but then this is where I got surprised. They got Kennard and Dupree still making this team. And in my opinion, I just don't see how they can allow this to be possible. I don't see the Chargers keeping Dupree and Kennard when they have a player of Tucker's caliber simply because he's younger. Look, eventually we all get aged out of our professions, whether it's you can't keep up anymore, you retire, or you're forcibly removed. Fortunately, being cut is forcibly removed. I don't see Bud Dupree and Kennard making this team over Dame Tucker. In my personal opinion, that seems a little bit crazy. The big surprise is here on our third surprise cut player, and that is Tony Jefferson. Obviously, Jefferson is on the older side when it comes to players on this Chargers team and players in the National Football League. Why would they keep older edge rushers but then keep younger safeties? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. When you look at this safety depth chart, I don't know that Jefferson is in a position where he has been beat out by anyone. I understand why the Chargers want to keep Genesis Smith. They just used a high draft pick on him. I get why they want to keep Elijah Molden, R.J. Mickens. They're guys who haven't retired in the last 4 years. Tony Jefferson, believe it or not, is someone who has. But I thought that last year he was absolutely excellent as a ball-hawking safety for this team. We heard during OTAs and mandatory minicamp that he was certainly someone who was going to go and make a bunch of plays, made a bunch of moves, force fumbles, interceptions. Jefferson still can play in this league, and this is a team that is trying to win now. Now, if this was a team that was going full rebuild mode, well then, yeah, of course, the Chargers are going to go younger. But I just have to ask the question, why go younger? Will the Chargers go younger? Because there needs to be a good reason if you're going to go younger and move on from a guy like Tony Jefferson who can help you win now and not let him, one, be a teacher and a leader to those younger players, but two, and I do think that this is most important, this is a team that is just entering their win now mode. So you can leave him on the team, help him bring along the younger players, and elongate the window that the Chargers are going to have for that win now mode. I don't understand why ESPN would have Tony Jefferson not be on this team. He can still produce, and he's someone that I think fits well in the locker room. Let's talk about Junior Colson next, because this is a guy that I think it's more surprising of him being cut, because it feels like if he didn't have so many injuries, he would actually still be a key piece of this team and could potentially play himself into being a real star with this squad. Now, injuries have obviously derailed a lot of things that he's wanted to be. He was over at Michigan with Jim Harbaugh, and we know that he wants him to really grow into this role with the team and certainly play himself into a position where he's making a lot of big plays. Unfortunately, it certainly seems like there have been rumors that the Chargers might move on from Junior Colson, and I think at this point, ESPN might have confirmed it. Now, I still think it's a bit surprising because you don't truly know what he is as a player if he's able to stay 100% healthy, but ESPN seems to think that the Chargers are going to move on. Lastly, let's talk about Trevor Penning, and I think that this one might make the most sense to me as one of the guys who could potentially get cut. But when you look at what this offensive line unit is, there's a clear position battle right now at left guard. It certainly feels like Cole Strange has locked up the right guard position, But between Jake Slaughter, Coyote Oshika, and Trevor Penning, there are a lot of guys that are vying for that left guard spot. Now, Penning is a bit older, and there are some younger guards that the Chargers use draft picks on between Taylor and Harkey that they are certainly going to want to keep, and they're going to want to give them time and opportunity to really grow into their role with this team. But in my opinion, I just think that even if Trevor Penning loses the left guard job, that doesn't necessarily mean that you move on from him. It does kind of make sense if you say, hey, he might be the best backup or third option that we have, but we want to go with the younger guy, and we're going to hope that these other guys end up staying healthy. But it still was a bit of a surprise to me. Did ESPN get their Chargers roster projection right? Let me know down below in the comment section. Do you think that those 5 surprise cut players deserve to be surprise cut players, or do you think that this Chargers team, they're going to make some different moves than ESPN is predicting? Let us know down below in the comment section. Hit that subscribe button. We got a ton of coverage for you. Training camp is here. You don't want to miss any Chargers news, rumors, updates, or analysis that we bring you. Thank you guys so much for viewing the show today. Can't wait to see you next time, and bolt up.